Like
Like a party, it's not shot.
yeah, that's this guy.
Very nice. Yeah, so you're like, I know. Thanks, that's good. That's an interesting conversation.
What do you want us to take with them?
How do we gather that money back? Yeah.
Oh, it's got, so that, the membership packet.
Oh, take us drive.
Membership, that's the two side. Good morning, everybody. We'll get started in a couple minutes here. So, I think 20 will come out of the minutes. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Top of the morning to you.
Whenever you talk, it shows you. Yeah.
Amy, are we ready to start, or do you want to wait a couple more minutes?
Hi. Well, you bring me
You're a
over.
little muffled there.
How about now?
Much better.
Okay, good. Moving in the way.
She's still muffled to me. Amy, you're still muffled to me. I don't know where your microphone is.
It's just a voice, on some level.
Can't. I don't know. It's very muffled. I don't know why we're focusing on Eglantine there.
It's just me.
Comment ça va? Ça va bien?
That's not me. We can say.
Hmm.
How's that?
Better.
Is that better?
Yes.
Now we gotta turn you guys up.
So you have like a check mark on some background noise or something that gives over muffling us.
That's what it was, yeah,
Those over muffling us.
yeah. Talk, Cam, say something.
All right. Can you all hear me okay?
I need to turn it up at that.
There's a plus and minus sign.
There is, but let's see.
Test.
I have it on 100, except for when I changed the setting to.
I've seen it climb under the table. Here's the plus.
You do that.
Well, that's what I'm doing right. Already.
We can hear you very clearly, Amy and Colonel Vail. So whatever you did worked on your end.
Okay,
Right.
good. Because whatever you did worked on our end too, so.
Look at us solving problems already.
I know. All right. Go ahead, kick us off, Kim.
All right. Well, good morning, everybody. My apologies being virtual today. I've got as a couple overlap different events and stuff taking place, but such a pleasure to be with you all here. My name is Camram Spencer. I am the Director of Government Relations for Port Houston, and very happy to be here on the subcommittee here for Ports and Maritime. This conversation has been long in the works with BayTran and Amy leading the charge with everybody else on here to truly get this subcommittee put together. And as we look toward, believe it or not, state legislative session for 2027, and we're still in some special legislative sessions right now. I think it's very timely that we put this subcommittee together, just even from an advocacy standpoint, let alone all the planning that takes place and all the collaboration that we truly do need for our region. So I just want to applaud BayTran for being innovative with that and taking that on. We do have a pretty good agenda today with Colonel Vail speaking to us in a little bit. And then I also see Chad Burke on our agenda here as well to discuss Fleet Week. I will give a little plug for Fleet Week. The port is hosting 4 vessels actually for Fleet Week. So 3 of them up at our turning base and terminal, and then 1 down at our Bayport facility. So we are on the planning committee for Fleet Week, and happy to, at the end of this, answer any questions or email me or get in touch with me, and I can put you in contact with the right folks for planning. But I'll leave more details up to Chad as well. Amy, I'm not sure if I see Chad in the room. Is he there?
Yeah, I think he thinks he's online.
He's
So-
not in the room.
Right.
Chad, I'll virtually hand you the baton here. So take it away, Chad, and give us an update on Fleet Week, please.
Thanks, Cam. Appreciate it. And Amy, thanks again for putting this group together. Just a real short one right now. I think logically was roped into helping with sponsorships. So I'm gonna give a plug for sponsorships. Amy, I am sending to you. Actually, Kaylin is emailing you right now the sponsorship. Okay,
copies.
good. You got.
Oh.
Excellent. Yeah, there's some really great opportunities. There's going to be, almost a week's worth of activities. I know there's a really nice viewing that's going to happen at Sylvan Beach. I know Mayor Bechtel is working with Morgan's Point to do something kind of right off of Morgan's Point where the ships will pass really closely. But yeah, it's a week's worth of activities, interaction, opportunities to tour these boats.
Hear you.
Can y'all hear me okay?
Nah, you're kind of R2D2 underwater.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Chad.
Okay, I apologize.
Oh, that's
Just
better.
being remote is a little tough right now, but
Much better.
Amy has the sponsorship information, and we can just pass that out to everybody. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you, Chad. Sorry about that. So yeah, I guess, Chad, I do believe yesterday we said that the presenting sponsor is still open, correct? Yes. Okay.
That is correct. Yep.
50,000, if you want to get your name on that presenting sponsor, it's gonna be a big deal.
And I will just make a quick little follow-up to Amy on Fleet Week. So if you go to fleetweekhouston.com, there is a get in contact with us if you want to volunteer or sign up to be on the host committee, etc. And there is an official list of events that they have. And then there's a bunch of other spin-off events with, different groups hosting and everything. And like a lot of us know, this is the first time Fleet Week has come to Texas. So it's very exciting on that front. So anyway, the fleetweekhouston.com is a great way to, if you want to host something or get involved, there's a link there and that'll go directly to the team that is kind of herding all the cats, if you will.
Awesome. All right, well, I guess we can get into it here with Colonel Vail. We've got Tim, who's the water director for HDR, the largest civil engineering firm, employee-owned firm. Awesome. And I just kind of want to start it off with
Yeah.
we missed introductions. Let's do that. Let's start with, I'll start, we'll go this way, and then we'll hit you guys online. So hi, everybody. Amy Speaky, President and CEO of BayTran.
Jenna Henderson, I'm BayTran's an intern from UHCL.
Bill Toops, Program Manager for BayTran.
Patrick Sadid, student, post-study leader, Pat.
Amini, so bracket lead again.
JJ Plunkett, Finance. Tyson Moeller, Port of Texas City, but also Union Pacific Railroad. Chris Scott, UVA.
I'm Quincy Allen. I used to work for TxDOT. I'm with BGE now, and I want to thank you guys for inviting me. And I've had just a bad run of luck with these meetings. I'm working to do better.
Thank you, Quincy. Quincy's our former TxDOT district director in the Houston region prior to Eliza Hall. Thanks for being here, Quincy.
Eglantine Poverel, who's a Quebec government.
Wendell Rickliff, Callan Marine.
Rick Open with two Naval Engineers.
Eric Elliott with GE Energy Trading.
Max Larpuente, Geotech and Geological Engineer for Terragon.
Laura Campbell, Coastal Team Lead for HDR.
Tim Vail, I'm the policy chair for BayTran.
And then we'll go to online, Michelle and then Peggy.
Good morning, Michelle Maksoud with Westwood Professional Services.
Good morning, Peggy Saylor, Vice Chair, Clear Creek Watershed Steering Committee.
Callie and then Deebies. I don't know if that's if I said your name correct.
Davy Zero, Weeks Marine.
Did you see my name? Sorry. Hey, I think I heard my name. I see some familiar faces. Callie Barnes, third day in with Port of Houston, Director of Seaport Connectivity. Good to be here.
Eric and then Mayor Cole.
Yeah, my name's Eric Hall with Edge Engineering. Glad to be here.
Yeah, Kevin Cole, Mayor, City of Pearland, and Chair-elect for BayTran.
Candace and then Kristen.
Hi, everyone. Chief Strategy Officer, Port Houston.
Hey everyone, Kristen Edwards, Economic Development Director for Texas City. Good morning.
Morning. Emily and then Chad.
Good morning, everyone. Emily Anderson with HAF.
Morning, everyone. I hope you can hear me a little better. Chad Burke with the Economic Alliance Houston Port Region.
Christy and then Paul. How about Deborah and then
Sorry,
Ray?
Christy Murray with the Prairie America.
Thank you. Deborah and then Ray.
Hi, this is Deborah January Beavers with Houston Wilderness. I'm sorry not to put my video on, but I'm in the car.
Drive safe.
Thank you.
This is Ray Newby, TxDOT Maritime Division.
Awesome. And then Jennifer Edenfield, I see you popped on if you want to introduce yourself.
Oh, I would if I can figure this thing out on my phone. Oh, y'all can probably hear me talking. That was wonderful. Well, I'm sitting here. I'm trying to get ready for a career symposium that we're having today. And so trying to get it to work in the auditorium. But my name is Jennifer Edenfield. I'm the Director of Career and Technical Education and Advanced Academics here for Galveston ISD.
Thank you. And I think that is everybody. Thank you, Tyson, for catching that for us. So we're going to move into our guest speaker, who is Tim Vail. He's the Water Director for HDR and also BayTran's Public Policy Chairman. He moderated panels at our infrastructure summit in June, and then also just moderated the state of the ports panel. And we're gonna kind of recap what he said or what we heard and how we need to move forward. I do want to say that we need to do a better job in the legislative session coming up of having our stuff together, because the ports didn't get the funding that they got the last two sessions, and then TxDOT actually, the 2026 UTP, we lost funding in every category except for two for our region. So we need to be better next session. It doesn't, to me personally, Amy Skicki, it doesn't make sense to me that our region is growing. We've got all these businesses moving here, people moving here. They love Texas, and we put less money into infrastructure when we had a surplus in the session. That make sense. So with that, I'll turn it over to Tim.
Yeah, so how the Ports and Maritime Committee is relatively new, right?
This is our very first meeting.
So how many people are actually on that committee here?
Anybody that is.
So Cam's the chair,
Cam.
Tina's the vice chair,
Yep.
and then everybody else.
Just members.
Just members, so it's
Yeah.
open membership for the committee.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Good to understand that. As the policy chair for BayTran, I kind of look at my role in terms of a two-part check. Amy gets a lot of traffic for as the president of BayTran traffic in terms of requests for BayTran to advocate for things. And then they asked me to look at it at the policy level and say, hey, what makes sense in terms of for BayTran's interest, what should we be doing here? And I really only do a two-part check. Is this good for mobility? Is this good for quality of life in the Bay Area? And then I try and dive into the details and find out if hey, is this really something for BayHup? Is this something for Chadburg and the Economic Alliance Port Region? Is this the right niche for us? And then what are the traps? How could this end up, biting us in the butt, down the road? So at the same time, there's one kind of universal thing we also do is we kind of gear up and focus on a legislative session, as Amy said. We've kind of become this kind of monotonized rote kind of reproduction of the same talking points for each legislative session, because traditionally on the ports and maritime side, specifically 98% of funding to the ports traditionally has come from the private sector and none really from the state until the last session. So, and that was kind of the overarching umbrella is that the last session, the session before the last, so the 88th session instead, not the 89th session, the 88th session really had in its backdrop the creation of the Texas Port Mission Plan. And we all feel like the Texas Port Mission Plan is kind of the only unifying thing that we have out there to try and keep, Texas the #1 maritime state in the nation. And that seems an important policy objective for BayTran is to reinforce and support that, right? It's good for the Bay Area. In terms of overall, it's the start of our transportation journeys and our mobility journeys really starts and ends on the water. So us and this committee's focus on that is pretty keen. And the second thing is economic development's good for the entire area. So what we kind of got in terms of general feedback in the last two BayTran events was, as Amy referred to, the infrastructure summit and then followed by State of the Ports with the backdrop of the Texas Port Mission Plan. Is we heard from Cedar Port, a navigation improvement district who's new to the area as a port, just recognized as a port in the last 3 years, I guess. That they kind of felt like they were fighting a battle up there on the state session with one hand tied behind their back, but there wasn't really a lot of momentum pushing them forward in terms of some of the initiatives they're trying to achieve. So it was a little bit of a call for action for who else and how else can we create some momentum and create, a unity of effort when we have these legislative sessions at the state? What do we really want from the state in terms of participating in the economic development through our ports? And then that was followed with the State of the Ports, who, we, at the State of the Ports, we had Freeport and Phyllis represent the panel. Roger Reese from Galveston. Tyson was there for Texas City, and then we had Ryan from Port Houston. And they all wanted to convey that, without putting themselves too far out there, that there's some large disappointment that we may be suffering a reversal in terms of the initial momentum that was gained with the creation of the Texas Port Mission Plan and the initial ADA session that provided $600 million worth of funding towards that, which matched up nicely with the federal investment that was being made for the deepening of our ship channels. If you're not aware, Texas has 24 federally recognized ports. It's probably 28 or 30, in various sizes, shapes, or forms. They call themselves ports. But in terms of those that have in the past or in the future had a partnership with the federal government as a port, there's about 24 of those. And there's 1,100 miles of federal waterways along the Texas coast. And the substantial, the majority of tonnage occurs, and that's shipped on those waterways occurs coming in and out of the Bay Area here. The investment that was made in the 88 session was not followed by an investment in the 89 session, and there's no real rhyme or reason as to why. There wasn't a continuation of that investment because the ports assured us in the state of the ports that they've executed. It's not from a lack of being ready to execute state funding. As state funding was made available, and then they also made reference to federal funding is made available, grant funding through MARAD is made available. All that funding comes in and it's executed well from the port's perspective. It's delivered prior to the next session, so it's not like they're carrying over a lot of funding from one session to the other. They feel like they're doing everything they can to prove out that this is a good return on economic investment for the state of Texas. They just need help. This is not them specifically saying it, but this is how we're inferring that. They need help making others understand the return on economic investment. And one of the things to understand is we talk about things like Project 11, Project 12. We talk about Cedar Port's potentially new deep draft channel. We talk about these large investments all the time. And the federal government participates when the return on economic investment is above one, right? When your benefits exceed your costs, it's a worthwhile endeavor. But even on the Ports Maritime side for those large scale infrastructure investments, it's rare to see benefit to cost ratios that exceed 5, right? But when you look at the return on economic investment for the infrastructure that we have and maintaining the infrastructure that we have, it's more like 50 to 1, right? So if we don't maintain our navigation system to its full authorized depths and widths, we're losing the opportunity for funding at ratios that are astronomical. And people don't understand that, right? So if you're looking at the Houston Ship Channel and its authorized depth, if they have a 3-foot draft restriction that lasts for 6 months, that's billions upon billions of dollars that are lost from an opportunity cost. And all it would take is, say, another $30 million of annual investment to maintain that or keep those restrictions from occurring in the first place. Our understanding that for the entirety of the Texas coast, there's a full need for $300 million worth of investment every given year just to maintain our navigation channels. And when earmarks went away, federal funding was largely determined based on performance and tonnage. And traditionally, over the last 50 years, the Texas coast has only been funded to 50% of its full maintenance needs. And then earmarks went away and it started to be funding at its full maintenance needs because it's the #1 maritime state in the nation and you invest in your greatest investment. As earmarks are coming back into the equation, we're seeing that full maintenance funding dwindle. So we know Port of Galveston does not have full depth and width or a plan to get maintenance funding for full depth and width, at least acknowledged yet. Houston Ship Channel, we know, has routine restrictions at the Bayport and Barbers, with regularity. And those restrictions last months, often last months. And then the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway often has restrictions, and then the remaining balance of our ports outside of the Bay Area struggle with maintaining their full depth and width at the same time. So there's about, there are the Freeport and Houston. That was their main push for us, is to understand it's not about any lack of execution on their end. So, they wanted to reemphasize that. None of them really ventured into the territory of tariffs. Now, maybe there's a lot to figure out on the economic side of tariffs, but we didn't really get any takeaways on tariffs in that respect. But I do want to say, Houston does have right now, Port Houston has a focus on completing Project 11 and maintaining momentum with Project 11 extending through to Project 12. Project 12's goals and objectives are pretty simple. It's to sustain the momentum that was established with increased transportation efficiency on Project 11 and carry that forward into Project 12 with additional federal investment. So what that translates into is what they're going to study. And Houston has been clearly open to Galveston, Texas City, participating as part of that study effort. And working for a common set of objectives for the entire complex. So that's good to see. I do want to bring in the notion that prior to the State of the Ports at the Infrastructure Summit was really the coming out party, if you will, for Cedar Port Navigation Improvement District. Cedar Port wants everybody to know, I don't know if they didn't join online or anything. Well, Chris Guy is part of can speak to some of the details specifically, but Cedar Port finished their study. It got formal cost certification by the Army Corps of Engineers and was submitted to the Assistant Secretary of the Army. So we have a brand new federal partner, the Honorable Adam Talley from Tennessee. We have a little bit of an issue there, challenge there, that Tennessee is not a coastal state. So we're going to have some advocacy we got to do to make sure the new Assistant Secretary of the Army understands coastal ports and the Harbor Maintenance Trust Fund. Obviously, I think he comes from a big background on the inland waterway, right? So at least he'll have some understanding of the Gulf Intercoastal Waterway. The first real introduction that the new Assistant Secretary of the Army has with the Bay Area is going to be through reviewing the Cedar Port Navigation Improvement District's study that recommends a deep draft channel going to Chambers County and ultimately to service Cedar Port Navigation Improvement District and TGS's industrial park called TGS Cedar Port over there. So we'll see how that plays out, but it is in time for authorization in the Water Resource Development Act of 2026. And looks like the team's gearing up to move into pre-construction engineering, design, and ultimately construction in a rapid manner. They want to catch up to Project 11, and if that gets authorized, entertain conversations about being part of the overall Houston Ship Channel complex. So more to follow as that progresses. The Secretary has 180 days to review the Cedar Port recommendation. Ultimately.
Hey, if I can share, guys, it says BayTran's network bandwidth is low, so sometimes I'm even losing the audio, and then the video it can reduce it. Just wanted you to be aware of that.
Can use the journals to spend a little bit. So what it really comes down to then is us, kind of the takeaway that we had from all that discussion. The ports provided slide decks that Andy's going to provide through our BayTran site that really talks about their immediate project execution and how they're doing and their performance. It is good to know that we can call out for Freeport for doing the top 10. I believe we heard that we're soon to be in the top 10 in terms of their overall tonnage. And Galveston joining
I think it's a qualification parts. I understand that when Phyllis says that, that's not cool. Right?
Yeah,
she's very specific on it.
There's about 85 separate jokes. There's a lot of ways to categorize your tonnage. So imports, exports, and by commodity.
If you do it by just pure numbers, tonnage is one, right?
Yeah.
Phyllis is like number 17.
Yeah.
Like one.
Yeah.
And then Roger, Galveston's about 40.
So all the stats are lagging, but they really come from the Institute of Water Resources. They're not real time, they're largely a year plus lag. But what it does say is that, there has been a return on these investments. If you're new to this game, the expansion of the Panama Canal, the lifting of the export ban in December of 2015, and then quite honestly, a whole bunch of investment after Hurricane Harvey really allowed all of our deep draft channels, all 8 of them, to be deepened. And they're all in Freeport was the first one to be completed in terms of its overall deepening. Brownsville's being deepened as we speak. Houston Project 11 is being widened. They haven't got to the deepening portion up towards the turning basin, but that is coming. In Sabine Neches Navigation District, in terms of that waterway, is being deepened by 8 feet, right? So pretty substantial amount of activity going on there. And there's been, from Freeport's take, some immediate return on investment in that regard. I think rather than speak to Texas City's takeaway, I'll say, like Turk Tyson, is there any big takeaways from what you wanted, at least this committee, to know about Texas City?
For Texas City, I mean, like you said, it's Galveston and Texas City are in with Houston as far as, the future need for that project. And that study will take probably a couple of years. I mean, Cam will know better than anybody here, right? I think the first initiative is just to get the initial funding.
Yep.
That's the key. And I would say, feedback from Weber is we don't call them earmarks, we call them community projects.
Yeah.
For the team, right? But that's really important as far as messaging. And so he's there to support with others. So we're excited about those opportunities. I mean, there's some tenants that can use that deeper draft. There's others that it doesn't really benefit all that much. And what I would think about is that when I think about this advocacy, it's probably more impactful for us at a state level, that make sure that we're tied in with the state level advocacy, because all of us are at DC on a regular rhythm, getting support for the depth of the channels. So I feel like that's less of a lift for you guys, more of a lift for the ports that are doing already, right? With Army Corps and everybody, we're all hand in hand doing that. And I would encourage you guys to be in sync with like Greater Houston Port Bureau, and with Cam, I think of Texas Ports Association, that there's a lot of state advocacy, and it's really important that you guys understand what our initiatives are there, because we're really aligned, really active there. And so we want to make sure that you guys are supported there. So I think if you guys can be part of Texas Ports Association as a member there, and that would help you on the list.
Got it.
Right, so you've got visibility for what we're fighting for there, which would include things like the state funding. And I think of it as, you think of the ports, it's not just the waterways, our projects, like 200 million that we're looking for, we're actually looking for 900 million there, but it's also funding that they have now earmarked for the rail side. So I think they did earmark about $25 million for the shorelines there. And then they also have $250 million that is now available for grade separation specifically. So I think of that's opportunities to help ports, Houston, but also us. We've got 2 opportunities for grade separations for safety, and Roger down in Galveston has a whole list of great separation opportunities that they could maybe look at licensing that money. So those are opportunities.
Hey, Amy,
Yeah.
real quick. Yeah, so this kind of brings up a couple things. As we move forward with this committee, as well as our overall BayTran contingent, I want to remind everybody that even TAG, excuse me, Transportation Advocates Group, you know, for the whole Houston region, you know, their goal over this interim between now and the next session is number one to really meet with the Houston area contingent of the legislature individually, but number two, basically declare that the next session needs to be a transportation at all type of session. So we are making sure that we keep this focus on all the different facets, like you said, from grade separations to freight, how we move freight around, as well as obviously people. So Amy, I think you know, and this maritime and ports and maritime group, yeah, let's just face it. I mean, these guys represent the economic engine that creates, you know, what it is to be in Texas. And so I think it's really important that we somehow, some way, we the talking points, everything that we're talking about here needs to work with the greater region. I know we're a sub-region of the overall Houston metro area, but this sub-region powers everything that we do. And so, so I think it's important that we note that, and in our meetings with TAG and others moving forward as we come together as a region to advocate for that, this needs to be front and center. So,
yeah. And Mayor, I agree wholeheartedly with your points on that. And I think too, with everything that's been said so far, you know, we have our partners with TxDOT Maritime, some of them in the room there today. And that partnership is very critical as we look at, you know, we did receive some seaport connectivity funding out of the last state legislature. I think Colonel Vail, you were mentioning our statistic with the Texas Ports Association. We did a study where for every dollar that the state of Texas invests on the state level, it returns about $54 in economic impact for the state from the ports.
that's huge. That's huge.
So,
and you know, and note, there's going to be some changes, like on the Senate side. Senator Nichols is not seeking re-election, so that's going to change, you know, that leadership in the Senate side on the Transportation Committee. And so I don't know about the House just yet, but you know, so just all of that I think is important that we make those moves and we understand. And I think it's really important that we get out in front of all of this and don't wait till January of 27, but you know, probably past the primaries in March and really, you know, start having conversations with what looks to be our contingent moving into the House and Senate, so we can position maritime, ports, everything else in a good light. So I just wanted to make sure that we made that connection, since we were talking about advocacy and making sure that we can grow that advocacy for the whole area. So.
And I think the other opportunity is not just to focus on this region, but understand how the ports support the state, right?
Right.
So I think about, you know, we've got a small project that's happening. It's a $1.4 billion opportunity that's being developed. It'll take place, would be in place by 2028. But that's connecting the Permian Basin. So all the ports are connected to the Permian Basin and supporting West Texas with all those products. And so you really want to have a tie as far as how you're supporting the balance of the state as well from an economic standpoint, not just this region. So those are some couple thoughts, but looking forward to working through.
So I think, you know, that's the challenge that's ahead of us, right? I think Mayor Cole kind of sums it up pretty well, is like, it's a kind of complex field out there in terms of transportation advocacy and even port advocacy. We know we need to be unified if we want to get the biggest bang for the buck, right? For us, you've got Texas Port Association, Greater Houston Partnership, Greater Houston Port Bureau, Economic Alliance, Port Region, BayHep, TAG, and all
chambers.
All of them need to come together in terms of unity effort under greater transportation. And then this committee's role is to come together specifically on Ports Maritime, which is kind of the impetus of the start and the start and end of the transportation line of communication, if you will, in that perspective. So, the big message is, let's, despite all those folks that are advocating, our member ports, feel like more could have been done in terms of helping them advocate and with us being an advocate in that respect. I think our challenge here is to get organized, figure out how do we integrate, how do we establish a common understanding of who's doing what and what we want to accomplish as a state with that universe of potential advocacy partners. And then sign up and take ownership for our component to specifically focus on the Bay Area, obviously, but then follow through, starting now through the next legislative session. I think Tyson makes a great point that stay focused on the state level. If we can't get the state to convince that ports are probably one of the better investments for state funding, we got no business trying to convince the feds, right? Let the ports handle the feds to some extent. It gets complex up there. Let's focus on the state. I think that tees us up for what we want to do with the new committee and establishing our missions, our objectives in that regard. So I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Tim. That is awesome. So I'm going to turn it over to our Vice Chairman, Sina, who spent time putting together our mission statement and key objectives for this committee, and just kind of let him talk through that and see. Go ahead, take it away.
Thanks everybody for joining this first meeting that we have. We are going to meet once a month, every now and then, and it will be hybrid, basically open membership for a while. But the whole idea of putting this together was discussing how intermodal connectivity works in terms of how the ports are connecting to our roads and railways and aviation, and discussing congestions and things like that, and finding solutions for that. We created this as a space for these entities to come and talk and discuss issues and find solutions. And when it comes to solutions, obviously there's the funding, and there's going to be our mission would be advocating for funds. We will focus on the state level, as Tim mentioned, and also looking at finding projects and prioritizing them for funding. And also there's going to be opportunities to work with all these other entities like Texas Port Association, Greater Houston Ports Bureau, BayHep, and others that are involved in this and working on similar issues. And then also the other objective was resilience and sustainability, basically advocating for any technology that improves port efficiency, and also when there is improvements done to the ports, let's focus on how resilient they can be, so that they can bounce back after an extreme event like a hurricane. These key objectives are fluid. We can, as we meet together, if there's things that you have identified, we can edit them, and we can add to them. But we started with this was a back and forth between Cam, Amy, myself, Mayor Cole,
And the rest of the BayTran board, we kind of flushed all this out.
So if there is areas that we want to refine, we can discuss it. If there's things that we want to add, one thing, for example, in terms of funding, we have federal and state and private. Well, looks like focusing on the state level sounds like a more reasonable goal at the moment.
Well, I'd say where I would throw the federal side is in the grant side, right? So those are opportunities for you guys to give support letters.
Yeah.
And help illustrate what the benefits are for the region.
And that's what I had. Does anybody have?
Real quick question. Let's assume the new redistricting maps get approved. Chad may know this question real quick, but do the ports primarily keep Babin and Weber as the primary congressional districts? I'm not sure. I haven't looked specifically on the map for that.
Yeah, it looks like the new District 9, Congressional District 9, will also be a part of the delegation too, which is the footprint. As Port Houston, we actually keep in touch and kind of work with a group of about 8 or 9 Congress members.
Right.
We even loop in Jody Arrington from West Texas there. He's been a great advocate, and to that point earlier, is really a champion of connecting non-coastal areas of the state with exporting their products. His slogan is food, fuel, and fiber from his district to actually export through our Texas ports.
Okay.
So happy to continue to engage on those. But yes, we work with Lizzie Fletcher as well, kind of representing some of the industry, and then even loop in Dan Crenshaw and Morgan Luttrell.
Okay.
When appropriate as well. Then we'll be interested to see Sylvia Garcia as well in that group.
Okay. Yeah, I just haven't studied the map relative to the ports and all that. So anyway,
Mayor.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Dr. Babin does get to keep the container terminals, but the shifted District 9 catches a lot of the upper reach of the Houston Ship Channel. So it's both now. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Good deal. All right.
I do have a favor to ask, Amy. I know somebody put on some AI notes, and if it's possible for them to distribute those notes, at least I'm interested in getting it, because a lot of the audio, I'm afraid I didn't catch. So is that possible for whoever put on AI notes to kind of share them with me?
We can do that, yes.
And we're also, I think,
And I'm recording this as well, so I'll be able to get some details for you extracted.
Perfect.
So I'm headed out to Washington, D.C. this weekend for the Engineering and Construction Conference, which is a group made up of all the manufacturing facilities and refineries throughout the nation, and the big EPCs and the subcontractors that support the EPCs. When I was out in San Diego for the World of Dredging Conference, I ran into a lady, Erica, I must try her last name, Yonka. So she is the dredging program manager for headquarters, the USA. And she invited me whenever I get there to reach out to her. I was talking with the Port of Corpus Christi yesterday. He said, absolutely keep your meeting window, be careful. So sidebar, whoever would like to give me the message to give to her, I really appreciate the input. But what she was asking, she's asking for groups like this to support them, because in regards to money, they have no authority. So I intend to keep the meeting, just would like input.
Yeah, I mean, right now, let's keep it focused on, it's just dredging. we support the full maintenance funding for the Texas coast, specifically the Bay Area, which is a national economic engine, right? You heard Cam's statistic, right? And you get a 50, in general, you get a 54-to-1 return on investment for every dollar invested in the Texas coast. And that applies to maintenance as well, right?
How do we get more support from the owners? You know, they're lightering all the time and, you know, loading those vessels lighter than they should be. How do we get them to get more involved in this and throw in dollars?
Well, why don't you,
Depends if we're talking.
yeah, Cam, you should be able to speak to this because you guys have done a great job of partnering, making sure the industry is supporting our message in DC.
Yeah. So I can speak a little bit to that. We put together a coalition. I'll just explain the process a little bit. Usually in end of October, we start putting together a congressional letter that talks about the needs coming up for the Houston Ship Channel for operation maintenance funding for dredging. Really making sure that our congressional delegation, and it sounds like we'll have possibly some new members of that coming up here soon, are educated on it. We've talked about community funded projects, or I think the Senate is congressionally directed spending. They call it the earmark term, right? Like mentioned before, Congressman Babin has been incredible with getting us earmarks the last several years for operation and maintenance funding. And I'll go back into history a little bit here. Up until about 3 years ago, we were really not getting what we needed for operation and maintenance funding, especially compared to the rest of the ports around the United States. So we put together some marketing materials. I like to keep everything to a one-pager in government relations with elected officials. If you hand them more than one page, it gets put in a drawer. So keep our message succinct. And we actually went on a campaign in DC with the Army Corps of Engineers headquarters, the Assistant Secretary of the Army for Civil Works, ASA, and then Office of Management and Budget. So those three, to get that message across of why are we disproportionately receiving those O&M dollars every year from the Corps. So we hired actually Drury to do that study for us. And that's been effective in bumping up our numbers, specifically in the president's budget. And I know I'm getting in the weeds here a little bit, but that's important for us because as we see Congress more and more unable to pass budgets and do this continuing resolution business, those numbers influence what we get and what we continue on throughout for the Corps. And Colonel Vail can speak to this firsthand as well. And so making sure that we are continuing, the squeaky wheel gets the oil, if you will. And this is a year-round sport, so to speak. And so every time we're educating elected officials, making sure that those operation and maintenance dollars are first and foremost. And at Port Houston, our new projects, our infrastructure projects, new capacity, that's very important. But we always go back to when a Congress member says, what's the number one important thing for Port Houston? I always say operation and maintenance funding to the Corps, because if we can't stay, away from draft restrictions, our customers cannot come into the port fully loaded and cargo starts getting diverted or left back at docks. And so that's kind of the message that we've been bringing. But it does take a lot of the groundwork, as a lot of us know here, working with those agencies in DC and continuing to update them with our need and the economic impact that is this Houston Ship Channel that we all know well, showing them the tie not just to Texas, but the whole nation. And that's been beneficial and effective because when we're in DC, they look at us and say, well, that's great for Texas, but how does this impact the entire nation? And that arms them with the talking point to go through their agencies to actually say this is beneficial to the entire country. And here's the job numbers. Here's the jobs that are at stake. Here's where we can make impact. So we've been able to turn the tide the last couple of years with that, thanks to all the advocacy, but we've got to keep that going.
Yeah, I think part of what Wendell was saying, though, what you guys have done a good job is bringing the industries in. So I understand, right? Speak to that. That's part of this question, is right.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out a little bit, but the other thing with the industry folks is getting their names on kind of this initial letter that we send in October, November, showing the administration that we have wide industry support, and coupled with our public, elected officials supporting that as well. But keeping the industry engaged, having them make phone calls, reaching out to their government relations folks, their consultants in DC, making sure that they have that talking point and that number so that we're all consistent.
Right.
Say, Cam, I think too, part of the success of Port Houston and getting the industry together has been Chad Burke's organization. He's really taken the lead on, making sure that all of those businesses up and down the ship channel, I mean, they already get it too, but he brings them together and coalesces them together. And potentially that could be what BayTran needs to do for this sub-region, right? Is getting all those people aware and educated and on board with helping us advocate as well.
Yep. So Wendell, part of the process.
100%.
Like when Houston or someone goes in and talks to them, the industries know that we've done that. Like specifically for Texas City, my industries are coming right behind and saying, we know the Port of Texas City was in there. We are supporting, and they actually give additional information based on their industry and the cost of it is to them. That's what part of what makes it successful. Okay, so part of that is happening.
Okay, good. And it may be something that I could do with the ECC is get together with, the right board member and maybe we start a conversation with that group because that's what they're about.
What group is that?
ECC, Engineering, Construction, Community. They go by several different names and they kind of hide themselves, if you will. But once you're in the groove, I mean, you get all the information and it's a very strong, very organized group of top executives in the industry.
The other thing that I'll put out there too, Amy, is that right now, if we can have, there's kind of a little bit of a divide with American businesses versus international businesses. And we've seen that in our advocacy. And so the administration really wants to hear from American businesses that are creating jobs in our region. And if there's, specific statistics that we can push out or use as a case study, if you will, for them and say, here's this company that's doing business that if, we don't get the funding for operation and maintenance or these new projects, this is what's at stake, and put real numbers on those and then being consistent with it, right? So that's another thing that we've really tried to hone in on is messaging with our Congress members and all the agencies that if, for example, if we're putting a number out there of like, this is what our ecosystem needs for the Texas coast and this ecosystem for funding, that we're all consistent. If it's, $100 million or whatever the number, because when we're consistent in our messaging, it shows that we know what we're doing. We've done the legwork and it's easy for folks to remember. If every group is coming with a different number to people, it's confusing and they kind of just put their hands up and say, we'll just throw something at the wall and then you get underfunded.
Got it.
So I wanted to mention when you will meet with Erica, should we talk about the Army Compound of the dredge material for beneficial use by 2030, and how port and maritime industry can use that, let's say for land development, for sustainability, for resilience, and that actually very important for the Corps because if they can use that material beneficially, they spend less maintaining those placement areas along Eastern Ship Channel or Port of Corpus Christi, building shoreline protection, elevating those levees. So if the port and maritime industry can use some of those dredge material for their own development, I think that will give a different perspective of this industry. And that could also help us with funding, because that additional pipeline they will need to dredge that material to the right place where the funding will be coming from. And federal, because of their goal to use more of those for beneficial use, maybe we can find a way to get some funding.
Okay, that's a good point.
So 30 million cubic yards of material are dredged every year off the Texas coast. About 10 to 11 million has been identified as suitable for beneficial use. There's and that's based on the beneficial use groups that are established. So the Houston complex has a beneficial use group. There's always the opportunity to find new uses, but of the uses that have been identified, we're kind of limited from a 30% perspective. The other perspective is, the Corps doesn't want to spend excess funding that they could be using for dredge and placing into a placement area. So they need funding partners, right, for that beneficial use, right? If it costs more to use it beneficially, somebody's got to bridge that gap. Louisiana has state level investments to fund the beneficial use. GLO invests in using it for their perspectives. But if there's a new idea on beneficial use, that's another area where the state has been able to enable those. Like I said, there's good precedent from Louisiana and good precedent with the Texas GLO. If there's the ability for developers to get involved or otherwise, it's a worthwhile endeavor for this committee to also have certain members that participate in the beneficial use groups that Port of Houston participates in, and I think the other ports participate in.
And we are involved in one of those projects you're talking about in Louisiana.
I think, Deborah January Beavers from Houston Wilderness is always interested, specifically in their.
Yes, indeed. Thanks for bringing that up, because yes, we need as many project partners as possible.
We are at 9:30 and I want to respect everybody's time, but just wanted to kind of gauge, was this a good time and day for everybody? We just continue rolling out whatever this is, the fourth Wednesday at 8:30 a.m.
Yeah,
like we had a great turnout. Yes,
allow me to do a quick plug. If anyone is attending the AAPA conference this year, it is hosted in Quebec, and my agency is doing a little program for visiting ports and terminals. But if any of you are coming to Quebec, please shoot me an email.
Back in January?
October.
Oh, okay.
I'll be attending. So if
I think Cam was saying something.
I was just gonna say I'll be attending the AAPA convention, so I'll see you there.
Email then, just yeah, sounds good.
Yeah.
One last thing, is it okay if I take a screenshot of everybody so we can make a post about it?
Of course, you've got to do our social media for us, Michelle.
All right, whoever wants to be on video, turn your video on and then look at the camera and smile.
All right, that's the dirty secret, right? If you show up to one ports meeting, you are officially part of the ports committee.
And it's accompanied by a photo.
And you're
Michelle's best.
Yes, exactly.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, I'll send out notes and recording in the meeting for everybody. And Tim, are you gonna say something?
We're good on the mission statement and objectives, or are we looking for feedback from everybody?
If you guys how about next meeting, we'll take any feedback that you have from the mission and objectives that were handed out today. I did put it in the chat for those of you online. So take a look at those, and we'll take time to talk about feedback from that next meeting then.
Before we adjourn, anybody interested in speaking in the next session?
I think it dawned on me that we need to hear from industry partners, and it'd be good quite honestly, for this forum to have, and to pick an industry partner that we need to know more about to help understand how to use them or advocate for them. So, and it'd also be good to recruit them into BayTran, right? So we can invite people that we want as a member of BayTran, and have them speak, whether it be a Dole or a Union Pacific or, you know what I mean? That's my thought.
I would also make it not just about the industry, but about the community, because I know that like Port Houston is like
Yep.
a huge kind of blowing one together.
Yeah.
So I educated them, but you know, Texas City's thing. Collaborating with that with the industries as far as what we can do for them.
I like the way you keep plugging that, and it just makes perfect sense.
So if you nominate speakers to Stina, you can coordinate with them for their next meeting.
Got opportunities on Texas Maritime, rail division.
Perfect.
So I don't know if you have any invites into like the rail division.
We haven't had any invites yet, so that'd be great.
Great, you got district that has an interest, because sometimes what happens is there's so far having someone from the region. But the district hasn't been tied into some of those conversations, so it's an opportunity to at least fight if they don't have bandwidth to show up, if they know the other, so.
Right. Okay.
So I think everybody's cool with that.
Do you have a name of somebody?
For the rail division, it'll probably be Chad.
Chad.
Last names.
Cool.
Now,
You can shoot us a message with his name and maybe contact information, and we can reach out and get him scheduled for the next meeting.
Well, he's a best.
Glenn.
Yes,
Glenn
Albert
Burger.
is the district
Yeah.
engineer.
we had him come down and speak, and then we had, but I think of someone like maybe Bruno. We can at least ask Bruno. Go to Bruno or Glenn, just ask him who.
And I can do that because I actually have a conversation. I just connected them with Deer Park Chamber to be a guest speaker, so I can take that, Sina. If you wanna, we'll get this Chad, I'll let you take him from Tyson once he sends us his contact information.
So Chad Coburn, so I'll send you his information that, tied in with HGAC, we got the cities, right?
Yeah. Great. Okay. All right, everybody, thank you for your time. See you next time.